Hey, and welcome back to the Thefanpubcast, episode 5. I'm Sean Connors, and I'm joined by Al Roberts. Hi, Al. How
Welcome
you doing?
all. Yeah, I'm good.
Been a great week. Loads happened last week. Thank you very much. First of all, before we get started, we have got some shout-outs, but before we talk about those, we got to self-promote here. We've got to be a bit more cunning about self-promoting, Al. So let's get that out there. Listen, if you're watching this podcast, whether it be on iTunes, whether it be on Facebook, YouTube, whatever the medium is you're seeing it on, please comment or like. Please subscribe and please share it as much as you can because
we always forget to say it, don't we?
We always forget to say it. We give all our advice out for free. We really do believe in ourselves, that we try to be very honest and open about what we do, and I think you'd agree that's what separates us. So please help us. But we've got a couple of big shout-outs to give. And the first one I'm going to give this week is to the Northamptonshire Knights American football team, who I spent some time coaching with earlier this year. Absolute great bunch of lads. Trained by Coach Vince. It's a brilliant group. I expect really big things of them, and it's already starting to happen. And we've also got the Somerset Withens American Football Club, who've been in touch with me and would also like a big shout out. So for them, well done. We look forward to hearing more from you. Please, Somerset Withens, let us know when you play. Same with Northamptonshire Knights. Let us know when you're actually playing, guys.
And the Yorkshire Rams as well.
And the Yorkshire Rams. And let us know when you're up for any game, and we will definitely try where we can to make sure people are aware of it. And where possible, particularly with the Northamptonshire Knights, we'll definitely come down and see you guys in action. It should be good fun to see that. Anyway, thanks very much for that. It gives us that opportunity to get those shout-outs. Al, what's the news?
And without further ado, we'll go into the news. First bit of news, the Eagles have waived Dorian Green-Beckham.
Yeah, that's...
Are you a big fan of Dorian Green-Beckham?
No, never have been, unfortunately. No, not really.
And they clearly aren't either.
They aren't, no. I mean, it's a new regime change, isn't it? I think that's what's caused it. I mean, the new people have sort of swept the boards a bit here. Anybody that doesn't fit the ethos of them moving forward is gone. And I suppose this was overdue news, really. It was only a matter of time. I think
it was whether it was going to be him or Nelson Aguilar.
There was a bit of speculation. It was one or the other, wasn't it? And this is the route that they've chosen to go down. I suspect somebody will take a flyer on this guy and give him a go.
He's another man that has the height, the speed. He's got all the measurables.
All the tools are there. Yeah, agreed. I'd like to see him. You do want to see him have a chance. I mean, this is all you ever asked for in the American football. It's such a brutal game.
He's not been short of chances. He just needs to find the right situation.
Just needs a fit. Let's see what he can do. It'd be nice if he hooked onto a team before training camp and see if he made their 53-man roster. That'd be interesting.
We talked about, Ryan Matthews. It's been the worst kept secret that he was going to get cut, but he hasn't. And actually, this week, Darren Sproles has come out and said they're going to be a three-pronged offence.
Yes, I heard that.
Which is Blunt and Ryan Matthews doing like the first and second down running, and then Sproles will come in and do third down.
I think it'll be mostly Blunt, to be honest. I think Ryan Matthews will take some work, but
at least that says he's going to be part of the offence.
At least he's part of it. I thought he was going to get cut completely, and that is interesting because they're an offence that's improving. I think under Wentz they've shown signs of life, and there's some new green shoots of recovery, which will be good for the Eagles fans.
Even Aguilar had a decent camp.
He did. I'm shocked to say that, but yes, you're absolutely right. He did. And I would like to see them recover because I think their fan base is very, very loyal but very vocal, and that's what I love about them.
Yeah,
they're very honest, and it would be nice to see them actually have a decent-ish run, at least have a chance of some playoff football.
I disagree, but
yeah, well, okay, that's fair enough. I mean, you would not want them to do so well, would you? Really?
Being a Dallas fan, I'm happy with them.
I don't see them threatening Dallas. Let's put it that way. Not any time at the moment.
It's a tough division, though. You got the ever-improving Giants with a defence, it's an improved offence this year. You've got the Redskins.
Yeah, it's going to be a good, exciting division you're in. Unlike perhaps mine.
Like the Rams.
Look, I mean, full regalia. Look, you can't see me, but I've got my hat on. I've got my Rams top. I'm fully supporting the Rams. I'm right behind the new man.
Jared Goff wears all that. Doesn't mean it's good.
No, I know he does, but I'm right behind McVay. I like to see the new coach get a good chance. I think he can do a good job. Has anybody been watching the Amazon? I think that's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Amazon series, All or Nothing. They've got the Rams on it this year. It's all the 7 episodes or 8 it might be actually have been loaded on. I watched them all really quite quickly, and it was a lot of fun actually, and I would highly recommend it. Even if you're not a Rams fan, you will laugh a lot. You will enjoy it.
Spoiler alert, it doesn't end so well for Fisher. But
Coach Fisher, no, it's a tragedy. There was a long pause before anybody went over and shook his hand. The only man that walked up to him was Mark Singletary. I was a bit scared actually when I saw that happen. I thought maybe Mark will do me a favour.
The only thing I'm liking to is in the UK watching The Office where David Brent gets made redundant and he's there and then no one but he's bothered and he keeps saying stuff until he gets a reaction. It was a bit like that. So.
It was quite embarrassing because there's no you look at the two men. I mean, they're totally different, contrasting coaches, aren't they? I mean,
yeah,
you know things are bad when the only person who cries a tear is the punter. Well, he's lost all that work, hasn't he?
Yeah.
It's not good, is it?
I think he'll still be busy, to be honest.
I think he'll be very busy.
Yeah, Hecker, he was a real character, actually, in it, wasn't he?
Well, it's a good change. Coaching change had to happen, and it will be good for the Rams. I think this will be a tough year, but we'll be a better team. We'll be a harder team to play. We're not going to go down without a fight now.
The demeanour of the two head coaches are vastly different.
Massive.
One was so dull and turgid, or that's how it came across to me.
Very much.
I mean, McVeigh came in and in one episode he's like...
I'm very interested in seeing how they do. I mean, I must be honest, it's inspired me to think, hey, you know what, maybe we can move it around a little bit here this year. Maybe we just see people thinking, actually, we don't really want to play the Rams. That's what would be nice, even if we're not very good. At least we might scare some people. Maybe. It's always worth a try.
You never know. Okay, moving on. Jamal Charles' knees is doing everything. He's obviously had problems with both knees, and he's doing everything apparently. Well, he was doing everything last off season.
I'll just gloss over that one. That's a good one. Yeah, it's very good. Congratulations, Charles.
He's doing everything. What do you think he's cooking? They're trying to get
their
money out of him.
He's certainly not.
Odd jobs around the stadium.
The poor guy. I mean, it's like one of these situations. There are people like this in life. You do see them. I remember a true story. I think I might have mentioned it before. It is funny. This is not to do with American football. It's the same thing in sport. I was playing football quite into my 30s. You know, obviously advancing years now as they are, and you do your best. That's what you do. It's Sunday league football. It's not very particularly competitive. And we had a guy who was like, I was in my early 30s. This guy was approaching his 50s, and he still wanted to play. And you knew he couldn't play. Everybody knew, but then no one had the heart to tell him. No one had the heart. And the worst bit, and I think the moment the eyes came off, like everybody has a sort of a kind of a blinkered view of how good they are, was the moment it all changed for him. Was a day when, for whatever, very loyal guy, who always set the matches up, one of these people who's always there on time, really, really loyal, but he would be because he couldn't see that he still couldn't play. It was one of those really weird things. And one day he was late, and he was driving in, and he had an open top, one of those old Escorts with an open top, a summer day, was driving in, and everybody was cheering. And I was one of the last out from the train. I think, Christ, why are they cheering? And somebody said to me, we're only cheering because he brings the oranges along. And that's the sad part of play. He's got to realise, Charles, it's the end. And that's what's so sad. I think they need people around him, to be honest.
You don't think he can get anywhere near to where he was
No,
before?
I don't. I really feel sorry for him because I can see the desires there. That's never left.
He's not taking a big payday, which is why.
And that's another reason why I think it's just the blinkers over the ability. I don't want to see him get hurt so badly that that really.
Wouldn't it be great if he could come back and do something?
It would be lovely to see it, and one more hurrah would be great. I just think when you look at his track record over the last 2 or 3 years, all you're really looking at is he going to hit another big injury?
Yeah, you're sort of cringing every time he goes
I don't want to see him because look, he's had some serious injuries, right?
Oh, yeah, both ACLs,
and that's pretty serious. And these things linger. I mean, look, I've done little things where I've busted my wrist and things like that in the past. And I'm feeling it 15 years later. I mean, I know it's there. These guys have had ACL tears, and they are playing a full contact sport for several years, particularly him. He was at the height of his game. He was taking 300 carries a year. I don't want to see him get absolutely crippled before he's 50 years old. I don't want to see that. I would rather somebody close to him said, look, actually, Charles, let's be honest. Yes, why don't you consider the next steps? Which, whatever they might be, maybe you want to stay in the game. There's loads of ways he could be relevant.
Coaching, whatever.
Loads of ways he could be relevant. And still, think about all the players who've retired and everybody needs them for training. Randy Moss, they all want to go and see Randy Moss, the wide receivers, for training out of off-season or advice and tips about being a better wide receiver. He'd have an absolute field day teaching his young crop coming in. He would be so in demand. And I'd like to see that for him, really, to be honest.
This is his last hurrah, isn't it?
It's got to be.
So.
Last throw of the dice. I wish him well. Hope it goes well. But for fantasy purposes, I'm sorry, I'm not a believer.
Right, there's some news coming out of Chicago. Jordan Howard's had an eye procedure, which will help his receiving skills.
Yeah.
Last year he dropped over 21.5% of the passes that he was targeted with.
Yeah.
So he's putting it down to vision.
He's actually correct. I mean, he's absolutely right. I mean, again, I saw this bit of news come out in the week, and I asked that question to our.
It's the second worst drop rate out of running backs.
I asked this question
decade.
to the doctor, Ian. I asked him what he thought about that particular procedure, and they're very standard, routine affairs.
Yeah.
There should be no lingering after effects, and from all accounts, it's it's one of those corrective procedures that he's had done. I would think he probably can at least half the drop rate, which is very good for his fantasy. I mean, that's the one positive side of this. He's doing everything he can do in this off-season. Not just that, but you can tell from his work ethic, got to give him credit, the guy's giving it everything he can do. So if he falls over, I suspect it's the team rather than the player. At least he's doing everything he can do.
If the ball hits him in the face this year, it's
then the procedure may not have gone so well.
Or he's not set out for receiver.
Yeah, maybe not. But I think it's a fair call. I mean, even if it makes a difference by half hour, that'd be still massive.
I know you're a big fan of Marcus Wheaton.
Huge.
They've announced that he's favourite to win the slot receiver role at the Bears. Is that
someone
you're going to be buying big shares in?
I'm certain that's probably true because but the Bears are in need of any wide receiver. I mean, if anybody got cut tomorrow, they might be in the market to pick him up. So that could all change.
I don't know. They've got a lot. Haven't they? Got Cruz is there now. They've got
but these are legit kind of players. Cruz is great for salsa dancing, really.
He used to be good.
Yeah, he used to be. But I mean, I think what we're talking about here is that, yes, he might win the slot, but he didn't do anything in Pittsburgh, which is a far better octane offence.
Yeah.
By a mile, we got one of the, 2-time Super Bowl MVPs who can sling one of the best deep balls you've ever seen. You're supposed to be a deep threat kind of guy. You should be able to do something in that offence. I saw no signs of life from him. So I ain't holding out a lot of hope that he's of any relevance, and I won't be buying any shares of him in the fantasy leagues going forward this year. And if I do end up with one, could somebody please hit me? That was a mistake.
So some interesting news coming out of the Vikings camp is that they believe Latavius Murray will actually begin the season as Dalvin Cook's backup, and that's massive for fantasy.
That's huge. Yeah, that is huge.
Do you believe it? And B,
well, it was actually from Latavius Murray himself who said that.
Yeah,
so that's pretty telling, and that's also very good on his part, because what he's really doing is he's being really open and honest about the situation that he finds himself in. I think that's actually quite good from a professional's point of view, that he's being that open and honest. But equally, he's actually putting the pressure on the rookie in a weird way, because he's saying, all right, you've got first dibs, you've got to deliver. But I think it definitely ups his tempo. You might notice that when we talked about players that intrigue me for this year, Dalvin Cook is one.
He was on your list, wasn't he?
We talked about a lot. And the reason is, it's not because I think year one we're going to see some stratospheric numbers from him. I've actually got him down for a bit of a 50-50 share in terms of running and receiving. It's fairly even split between 400 both and 500 for both, and maybe as many as 8 touchdowns, 6 to 8. That's actually decent numbers, but when you're having to pay that higher price for Dalvin Cook, because on the ADP is very high, that will only climb now. That's a price too high for me,
especially in that offense.
I'm as much as I think there'll be flashes of really good stuff. It will surprise me if he takes a full load this season. I suspect that's not the case. Latavius Murray was given some very serious money. They're going to use him in some capacity there.
He's going to steal the goal line carries.
And there will be some of those. And that will have, obviously, dents a little bit of Dalvin Cook's.
And that's going to annoy you as a fantasy owner.
Yeah, very frustrating. But I think, there is some good signs. I think Dalvin Cook for a dynasty league would be a great player to have this year for a flex player kind of option. And then he may well grow into a much bigger role once Teddy comes back, hopefully 2018. And, the kind of pieces they've got. Really exciting team it could be. Really exciting.
But they've lost Matt Atiata, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on.
Yeah, best to leave him out of it. Yeah. Good old man.
Talking of old running backs, he's not old, but his career might be. Carlos Williams suspended long term again.
His career over, isn't it?
I mean, such an exciting player coming into the league.
Such a shame. This suspension, in retrospect, it basically means his career is finished. There's no way he's coming back from this. No way.
It's a shame, isn't it?
This is tragic, really, for him. He'll end up in the CFL. He'll end up in some Canadian Football League. That's the best he can hope for. and that is it. His NFL career is finished, which is a tragedy because the guy had some talent.
Didn't he get 10 touchdowns?
Touchdowns, 10 touchdowns on very limited carries. I mean, the sky was the limit if he was in the right team, and just sometimes they can't handle the off-field issues that they have, the burdens that they carry around with them, and this is clearly a guy who's got demons everywhere.
Let's hope he can turn his life around.
I hope so.
The Cleveland Browns wide receiver coach Al Saunders tells the media he's disappointed about Corey Coleman's hamstring injury.
Yeah.
Saying he's missed significant time.
It's having a big impact, yeah.
What sort of fantasy implication can we read into that?
It's huge, because early, again, I think we've mentioned this briefly, it's always worth reminding ourselves of this, but I think I said before, he would have been on one of my lists, Corey Coleman, before the season. I was thinking, this is a really good situation for him, and actually, when you think about the potential, he's kind of would be the number one there, I suspect. But with this delay of camp, this hamstring injury, obviously lingering as well, it's obviously affecting him.
Well, he had these problems last year as well. That's what affected his season.
I can't put him on any list. I'm not holding out a huge amount of hope, and unfortunately, his ADP is still very high.
Yeah.
And that
it has to drop, doesn't it?
It's got to fall backwards. I mean, once he falls into that sort of 80 plus range and upwards, then there may be some value there. But until he falls into that kind of area, I don't even see me putting on any team again. I think he's just one. I can't trust the injury history and what they're saying. He's missed so much time. There's no chemistry.
Already in his young career.
I'm just a bit concerned for this season. I think going forward it'd be another player.
He's a talented guy, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm looking forward
to... That's the shame of the whole...
maybe next year is the year that he gets everything runs right, the injury's gone, and just everything falls into place. But this year I've got to avoid. I've got no choice. I can't recommend him.
Okay, well, most of the news coming out is beat reporters' opinions. Jim Wyatt is the beat reporter for the Tennessee Titans. Reported that Tyrod Taylor has been the star of the off-season, not Corey Davis.
Yeah,
and he expects him to have a big role this season in the offense.
Yeah, whatever. Corey Davis,
but this is the beat writer who sees him every day. He said he's lit. You're not buying into this.
I'm not buying that at all.
He's actually lit up Twitter with this.
Let me tell you something, right? Corey Davis is a freak of nature, and now I think we've already hinted at the fact that we're not saying Corey Davis comes in year one. We're talking about a dynasty player here. Year one in redraft leagues, it's kind of like, if he falls low enough, it's worth a punt because there's a huge ceiling if he takes off. But he's got to fall low enough, and he isn't. Again, he's number one high up on the ADPs. But Corey Davis, this news could push him back. Well, that's good, because if he goes back another couple of rounds or 3 rounds, I'm a buyer.
Makes him a bit more valuable.
I'll definitely buy into Corey Davis.
What about Tyrod Taylor? Are you?
Well, we'll see how he does as he go into pre-season. Let's see what happens there. At the moment, he's on the
training camp.
He's on the radar. I mean, let's put it this way. I mean, I'll stick him on the radar.
He is going low, isn't he?
Yeah, I'll stick him on the radar. We'll see how the first sort of pre-season games go, and then we'll make a quick decision from there. But I think Corey Davis is the guy who's going to be an absolute must-own in Dynasty and has a huge upward. That offense, what they put together, is going to be massive.
Well, this is how he actually ranked them. Richard Matthews is number one.
Yeah.
A lot of people saying that isn't going to be the case, but actually think it is.
I think it was, and the reason I think it is for this year is he's the mentor. He's the older guy, but he's not massively old, but he's old enough. He's been around enough.
Not as old as Decker, though.
Not as old as Decker, but he's been around enough that he has gone to different teams and proved he can do it. That's actually the mark of actually a good player, a good journeyman at least.
He does it wherever he goes.
He's done it wherever he goes. And the other thing about him is he's had a year under his belt with Marcus Mariota, and I think we saw good chemistry. Corey Davis will take time to develop that chemistry, but with him leading, kind of taking the bigger coverage away, it's good news for Corey Davis. Or maybe the other chap, depending on how it all pans out.
Yeah, so he's got Matthews ranked at 1, and then Decker and Tyrod Taylor rate are the second most targets, so jointly, and then Corey Davis is 4.
I see Decker coming in and being a first half of the year more important than Corey Davis in terms of touches and touchdowns. I see the second half we'll see some real serious flashes from Corey Davis.
We'll see what we're going to see.
We'll see some special stuff from Corey Davis, and you'll be going, wow. Particularly in Dynasty, people go, oh, I can't wait for the next year, because he'll be look really good. He can take over games, that guy, and in that offense is going to be very exciting.
Okay, well, there's some news coming out from Sammy Watkins. He just tweeted that he claims that NFL players need to be get paid more.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up, because this is
Sammy Watkins who's played
Yeah, well, he played 8 games.
Loosely last year.
Here's the funny bit, right? So I had a quick look at this when he tweeted this out, right? So I had a look at his salary. He's just making over $3 million. There's no small chump change, right?
Well, you know, it's about what we get paid for doing this, isn't it?
Of course, absolutely. Well, that's why we never ask for anything, because we're so well paid. If you do want to pay, I'm sure Al will leave his bank details. But no, in all seriousness, you think about this, he only played 8 games last year, and I think you already hinted quite rightly that actually out of those 8 games, he was pretty banged up.
I think he had one reception in a few of them.
I'm not going to go over the stats, but the truth is, if we just break down his salary into those 8 games, he was actually paid over $300,000 equivalently, because he only played 8 games rather than 16. Yes, if he played all 16, he's worth $162,000. The NBA play 82 games a season, and the highest paid player is Kobe Bryant, who's paid $58 million a season.
His argument,
but you break that down, and it's only $365,000 a game. So the truth of the matter is, yes, we appreciate that American football is a sort of a Cinderella season. It's brutal, far more dangerous, of course it is. But
it actually makes more money as well. It's $12 billion compared to the NBA, which is like $5 billion.
Yeah, and that may be so, but it's a different market entirely, and you're already paid well enough. I suspect that.
And he didn't actually play.
He didn't actually play
very often.
I wouldn't mind
if it came from someone.
I wouldn't mind if it was the top of the league. If Antonio Brown was
came out,
then I might take another look and think, oh yeah, you know what, he had this and he did that, and you know he's got a point. But it's you, Sammy. Sorry, buddy. I don't.
I mean, he's a good player, but you know, he's got the best
talent, all the talent in the world, and I think the last thing you want to be talking about is more pay.
Yeah.
Give us more games, and we'll talk about more pay.
What do you think for this year? Do you think we'll see Sammy in a boot or Sammy on the pitch?
I think we might see Sammy in 2 boots, but sitting on the edge of the pitch.
They haven't taken out his 5th-year option. I think that's right yet, have they?
No, they haven't. No.
So that's a bit. So it's another big season for him.
Look, the thing is here. This is the thing, right? So,
but he might actually play though, looking for if he's looking for a contract.
If you weigh up, this is worth mentioning because you brought this up. Perfect timing for this. If you weigh up all these rookie wide receivers, just talked about Corey Duff, really like him, but not for this year. There is one guy that everybody should be thinking about this year, rookie wide receiver, the guy that could be the steal of the rookie draft, Zay Jones. That's the guy you should really target. Okay, that's the chap who you really should be giving some serious mileage to. He's going low enough down in the ADP charts, worth a punt. He's slipped under the radar with a lot of people. It's looking good. It's looking good.
He could get opportunities, isn't he?
Yeah, he'll have a big opportunity. So he may be the one. Don't expect massive miracles, but think of it this way. He's going so far down, the sky's the limit. You know, it's the big ceiling here. You're looking for a player at the level you're drafting, and we always say this. There's the point I always do is I always say, round 1, I want 200 points, 180 and so on, until we get to 120. Any player below that point, very quickly that comes, I want a minimum 100. That's what you expect from them. I want a minimum 100, or have a ceiling that can far exceed it. It's what you want.
Or somebody that can come in and pick up at the end of the year. Where you really,
4 really great games is far better than, 10 games of mediocrity. I think he's got a great chance, and I think in that offence, when you think about Sammy probably ending up in a boot, actually this is even better. Because that ball's got to go somewhere, and he's a big lad. He's got all the measurables.
I thought that, and then I watched Brock Osweiler last year, and the ball, somewhere the ball went was on the floor most of the time.
Yeah, not one of the great guys of the NFL. That was where everybody else is lighting it up and throwing 300-yard games. He wasn't.
Okay, well that's the news.
Excellent news.
We'll move on to cut, trade, keep, which is
Oh, good. Yeah, we had some viewer questions as well, haven't we? I think you've got.
Yeah, do you want to go through them first?
No. Do you cut, trade, keep? I just wanted to make sure we had those covered because it's nice to get those questions coming in.
Okay, so cut, trade, keep. Todd Gurley, Leonard Fournette, or Lamar Miller.
I'm gonna trade on the name of Gurley, because people are going to buy into the hype for this year that there's a massive return. As I say, he's on my list of possible boom and bust. I'm not sure what way it's going to go, and I'm kind of like adverse to picking him. But I'm sure as I'm sitting here, I know that there'll be trade out there for him.
Yeah, so there's always going to be people buying.
I would rather trade on his name. I'm gonna take the rookie here and keep him. I'm going to keep Fournette and believe the workload's there for this season, and he's going to return some decent value for me. And I'm going to cut Lamar. I'm going to cut Lamar Miller to the ground.
I don't know how you can do that.
Fast and hard.
He's hard.
That's harsh, but there you go. That's how I feel about him. So that gives you a good clue on how I'm likely to draft. I'm definitely not taking Lamar Miller. Can't trust the guy. Just don't like it.
Okay.
Can't buy into it.
Your second. Your second selection, Spencer Ware,
Oh,
Eddie Lacy.
Yeah. Oh, this is tough.
And Mark Ingram.
Oh God, that's vicious, isn't it?
You're not going to get off with easy ones, every week.
I'm going to try and trade on the name of Eddie Lacy because there's some value in it at the moment. I'll have to do it now before the season starts.
Before he starts eating again.
Before
the bonuses are gone.
I'm going to cut Spencer Ware. I'm going to have to keep Mark Ingram. The only reason I'm keeping Mark Ingram for this situation is in case anything happens towards Peterson, because there will be a bit of a share of the load. I suspect Peterson wins through and takes most of it, but just in case anything happens to Peterson, I guess Ingram is logical to hold. So that's what I would do.
I was thinking about the situation with the Saints, and if you do go back a few years, they did have a three-headed running back, didn't they? They had like Pierre Thomas.
That's right. Yeah, he was
Darren
good for a while.
Sproles.
Yeah.
Mark Ingram. They had three like knocking about that,
and it worked in that offense because obviously Drew Brees and his.
They were actually an RB1 between them, but none of them
were any fantasy relevance. That's right,
and that's a danger with this, isn't it?
It is a little bit, yeah. But in this situation with that cut trade keep, that's the way I'd go about it, hoping to get the most out of those three.
Well, Eddie Lacy's in a similar situation.
Yeah. Well, it's very difficult there in Seattle. I mean,
they got Rawls, they got Pro Size, even Alex Collins.
I've got more of a soft spot for Pro Size. The ADP is low enough, and I'm still a bit of a believer that he could. But he's got injury issues hanging over him as well. So it is all a minefield, that backfield. It's one of those that perhaps best advice one could give is, if in doubt, maybe you take Pro Size late.
Do you think Pro Size looks the most talented of them?
I think so, but it's the gamble.
So they do different roles, really, don't they?
The gamble with this is that it's maybe the best advice anybody could ever give is to avoid. I mean, because it just looks, what are you going to get from each of the players? You may get bits, but not enough. So, but the one thing about Pro Size is going low enough, you could take a stab and hope for the best of it.
Especially in PPR leagues.
Very much in PPR, yeah. Half-point PPR, you've got a great chance to produce some points.
And if he does nothing, he's costing nothing, you can sort of toss him away.
I'm okay with that, yeah.
Okay. Okay, on to the mailbag.
Yep.
We've had a question in from Sniper.
This is a good guy, this chap. We've got to give him a big shout-out because he's really putting some comments down on the videos. This sort of that kind of interaction is what we're looking to see. And we need more and more of that. So thank you for these.
Yeah. So anyone in the comments, we'll answer your questions. We can discuss different players.
If you've got a team you want us to evaluate, we'll happily give you our thoughts on a team. This seems to be very popular on Facebook, so we should use that in our show. So if you've got a team and you want to send it in to all the contact details are on these videos, by all means send it in, and we'll evaluate your team and tell you what we honestly think of it.
Well, he's in a rather weird league.
Brutality is our specialty.
Oh yeah. We do brutal well. He's in a weird league, which is a no-bench 2 QB league.
Yeah.
It's PPR.
Yeah.
And he can only keep one out of Shady, LaShawn McCoy, Mike Evans or AJ Green.
Yeah. Well,
which one should he keep?
I'm definitely not keeping, my thoughts on McCoy for this season.
I'm a bit worried about his injury.
I'm not going to keep... The way I'm looking at this is PPR and the volume of work that's going to come his way. I'm going Mike Evans. I've got a huge uptick for Mike Evans this season. I think everything bodes for even more, actually. Maybe even a 10% improvement on his numbers, which is huge when you think about what he returned last year.
If it's a keeper league, and would you sort of factor in that, obviously Evans is younger and you may be able to keep him by the year? We don't know the situation there. But
yeah, you might be able to. But yeah, I factor in the age is very important, and looking at the offences and how they've improved each year is also a very big steer. And I think definitely Tampa Bay, if you were putting an honest, take your fantasy eyes off and just honestly assessing them, they have massively upticked that offense. There's a lot to like for Evans' situation. I mean, they've improved. The tight end looks great, which is going to stretch the field. They've got Mike Evans can no longer be double covered easily. This is fantastic for him. I mean, this is really going to bode well. So I could see a 10% uplift. But what does that really mean? He could go 225 fantasy points. He has that potential this year. And in PPR, what's that going to be worth? Nearly 300. That's massive.
Could you argue that more potential targets, more players to spread the ball around could lessen his...
No, I think actually they're more efficient. I think when you're more efficient, that gives you more opportunities. I also think their defence has improved, so there'll be more chances. So I'm quietly happy that I bet he ends up with about a 10% improvement. And overall, in the PPR league, the full PPR league, he's a 300-point player. That's massive. He's got such a huge upside this year. Evans, McCoy worries me. The injury... Look, you've got McCoy and DeMarco Murray. I think one of them goes down. My instincts are telling me that it's McCoy. And, there isn't an obvious, other than Jonathan Williams, I don't see any other backup, and he's really unproven, so he could be just okay, nothing special. Whereas at least with DeMarco Murray, there is a proven backup that's special.
One, we talked about Carlos Williams. He got 10 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Mike Gillespie backed up McCoy last year, and McCoy didn't. I think he missed one game at most, or part of the game.
It shows
and Gillespie got 8 touchdowns.
It shows you how to try to protect him, because they're not letting him do the close-in work, which you get the most sort of contact.
So this is backing up McCoy. The backups have got 10 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns. That's a very valuable.
It's a telling statistic,
and he's going late. He shouldn't be going this late.
Yeah, it's a telling statistic because you would think he will get some carries. Okay, it's not going to be a huge amount, but if anything happens, all bets are off.
But you'll take 8 touchdowns for a backup running back that you're taking away.
Range, that's massive, because we all know, depending on size of league, how hard it can be to find a running back that can give you some touchdown work.
And if McCoy does go down, you could be in clover. I mean,
you could be a very good year to hold the backup.
He's going stupidly low, and that's something you.
Well, I must be honest. I was delighted to get him in Dynasty League. I've got to be honest. I really like getting him.
So. I was hoping he was going to get charged, to be honest, but after you picked him,
no, well, that didn't happen.
He's escaped that this week.
Yeah, he's done well. Everything worked out the way I thought it might go, which is good.
So we think it'll be Carlos Williams, a backup there. But keep an eye on it. Things can change quickly.
Well, they can. Yeah, they can always change. We'll be monitoring that.
Right, maybe Jamal Charles gets.
So hopefully,
over.
We hope Sniper likes the answer on Mike Evans, and hope you agree with us. That's the key.
He was also asking your thoughts on Kobe Fleener, which people who drafted him last year would have been disappointed. He only got like 80 odd points.
Yeah, I think,
but he was still a tight end one with 80 odd points.
I mean, just you have to put it into context. It's a bad year all round for tight ends. I mean, in all fairness, when is it ever a good year?
Well, to be fair, there's a lot of good ones coming into the league, and they're more dynamic these days. Aren't they?
They are more dynamic. I mean, look, the ones that have come into the league this year don't expect huge amount. When you look back on this draft class for tight ends in 2 or 3 years, this could be the draft class that kind of chooses the direction of the way the NFL is moving. These are dynamic wide receivers in tight ends' bodies. They've got all the metrics for a tight end, but they're incredibly fast.
Even the Rams got one.
Even we've got a good one. And
he looks decent.
He looks good. And the truth of it is that this could be the direction the NFL is going in. And it's very obvious why, because you want to spread the field. You need someone who can break out in the middle, who's not going to be easily. If he's marking and then drops off, it's impossible to cover. These guys are very dynamic.
They often get mismatches, don't they? Against
smaller guys or people that don't have their height advantage.
Yeah, we've made some.
So I'm quietly excited that it will be beyond this year that we get to see.
Yeah, so a couple of years time.
If somebody breaks out this year, it wouldn't hugely surprise me. If somebody does really well, maybe 800, 900 yards and 7 or 8 touchdowns, which is pretty damn good, and they come out of nowhere, which could happen. But I think what you'll see is the progression of improvement every year, and there will be some exciting people to come. I mean, Gronk's not getting any younger; he's the best of the whole bunch.
Well, baby Gronk's in the league now. Adam Shaheen.
There's a few tight ends. I mean, I suppose the best.
Got John O. Smith at Tennessee could well be a late.
Best
round.
of the rest is obviously, I think they said Kelsey, isn't it? That's how you pronounce it.
Kelsey. Yeah.
He's the best of the rest. I call him Kelch because I like Kelch. He's more sexy, but
you
Kelsey,
do like to call him a bit of a.
Kelsey is the best of the rest, as they say, and there's a big look, but they're all so middle of the pack. But I do think, coming back to the question, I think that tight end has a much better year ahead of him now.
I mean, you've got Njoku, you've got Howard, you've got Evan Ingram, you've got loads of exciting players.
I think he'll be up in the top few now. I think that's realistic to say. So I think don't worry too much about last year's numbers. There will be some improvement, but you're not getting. There's not a lot between them all.
And he was actually on your sleeper list, your deep sleeper of people who ranked at ADP 150 or below. Yeah. So check that video out if you want to have a look at that.
He's on there for a reason because he's so cheap.
He was tight in 12 last year. I think he's going 14 off the board this year. So.
I think we mentioned it in the video. I mean, if you think about he was going tight, he finished tight end 12, and that was a disappointing year. Well, the sky's the limit.
And you've lost Cook, so Breeze is going to throw all day. That's what he does.
It's the best situation I reckon he's ever been in. I think it's a fantastic situation for him right now. It's a really, really wide open kind of offence he's going into, and it should suit him down to the ground. So if he can't improve on last year's number, there's something very wrong.
Okay. Well, we're going to go on to the stats section. That been quite well received so far.
Yeah, you've done a lot of
work. I've done a lot of work.
This.
We probably haven't got time to go through it all, but maybe we'll do it.
How much time do we have left?
We like to try and keep it to an hour. We just gone past half.
We're
an hour
doing okay then. That's all right.
So leave
There's
it
plenty of time, because the reason I mention this at this point in the podcast is Al's got a list about 2.5 pages long. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he's got in his stat list.
We're going to need about 2.5 years. No, we're not going to take that long. It's going to be good stuff.
The video will be 14 hours on 14 separate recordings. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well let's start with Todd Gurley, because he was on your boom or bust list, where
it's a fair place to put him, I think.
He's a high quality running back, but he's in a bad situation.
Yeah.
Terrible year last year.
If anybody can turn him around, it's McVay. So, there is some green shoots of recovery are possible there, yeah.
Well, let's just have a look at some of his stats. So, last year he was drafted as a RB3.
Yeah.
And he actually returned value of RB17.
Yeah, very disappointing.
So, he's already going to alienate a load of owners that won't want to touch him.
Yeah.
People had him the year before would be.
But he did, to be fair to him, he did get the volume. I mean, that's the one thing you mentioned last time. He had a lot of the ball.
Well, he had 78.7% of their red zone carries.
Yeah.
So he had every opportunity. He had the lowest yards per carry in the league, the lowest yards per touch in the league.
Yeah.
And we know he's a talented guy, but he's just that O-line. I mean, watching All or Nothing, you actually see, wow, that O-line is terrible.
Yeah, I mean, this is what it boils down to, is that they haven't massively improved it. There is improvement. Yes, they've got a player that's come in that really looks good. They've got some pieces bubbling under the surface that you think, yes, you know what, maybe this can improve. But I'm not really a believer yet, because I didn't see anything last year that said, yes, you know what, Gurley, there's the flashes of excitement we're expecting. There's the big breakaway runs. I think good running backs find ways to do it even in bad teams, don't they?
Well, he did it the year before. He had some breakaway runs, didn't he?
Yeah.
He averaged 46 yards per game against the top 16 defences. That tells you everything.
It's very telling.
And it wasn't through lack of opportunity.
No, I think what's that saying is, I mean, if you look, and you highlighted this very fairly, I mean, to be fair to him, what we haven't seen yet is where he has a fair chance. At the moment, he's getting hit behind the line so many times.
Oh, yeah, you saw it all the time. Yeah.
To be fair, would it be one thing if, like we saw Trent Richardson at the middle of his career, where he should have had every chance, big holes opening up, and you're thinking, why aren't you running through the hole? It's not this guy he's got people in his face the moment he's got the ball. I mean, that's how bad it is.
Yeah,
he's
literally fighting off three people.
This is down to two factors, actually, and I mean, again, people can assess this themselves. First one you mentioned very well is the line. The second thing, actually, that I don't think you probably got the stat on this, but it'd be certainly one for people to have a look at. There's this very telling thing. When Goff came in, because he only played 7 games, Goff, and they haven't won a game under Goff yet, just so people remember this, very important is, when Goff was moving back to hand the ball off to Gurley, just to make matters even worse for him, as a coach, and I'll use that very loosely because we're not, professionally affiliated coach, but just from an observational point of view, a fantasy point of view, and everything else, I could tell where he was going to hand the ball off. I could tell which side Gurley was going to go to. I could tell.
So they're almost telegraphing out.
He was telegraphing for a good lineman or a good defensive player. That's where the ball's going.
He should be better at that this year.
Hopefully, they've seen that in the tape. I'm certain McVay looks the kind of guy who will have realised that. The way he spoke about it the other day on the Eisen show, he clearly understands the issues that Goff's got and the positives. There are positives. And that needs to be ironed out, because if he can get that movement of the ball to his side and the way he then puts it out, it will be much more difficult to see which way he's running, and that will give him more chances to break out. So there is some hope in all we saw. And let's be honest, he didn't have much of a supporting cast last year, did he? To be honest.
I mean, the other stat is he caught 43 balls, no touchdowns.
Yeah.
And Jeremy Hill finished above him in fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still. That's why he's on my boom or bust. I haven't completely given up on that.
No, because the talent is there.
The talent's there. The volume will be there. There's an improvement at coaching, massive improvement. I think if you can't play under McVay, you can play under anybody.
That was literally one of the worst offences in NFL history. If not the worst.
In terms of scoring, absolutely. And in terms of excitement, it couldn't have been worse for a Hollywood audience, could it, quite frankly?
Just watching them.
We needed excitement. We're going to get that now. And we might even have a coach that I suspect will... I'm not saying this year Rams are going to do much, but certainly if we're just tougher to beat and we win a few more games, even if it's not exciting, just people don't want to play us.
I thought he was a very infectious guy, Sean McVay, wasn't he?
Yeah. Good name. Always a good name.
Sean, yeah. I mean, what can you do?
Yeah, great name. Spelt the same way. Love that.
Yeah.
No, but just a love of guy. I mean, you want to play for him. The way he came across is the moment he starts talking, I'm like, actually, you know what? You won me over in 5 minutes of listening to you. I'm thinking, I wonder what they're going to do here. This guy, he's got a real grasp of the offense and the things he's saying, the way he talks. The best bit was, this is the best bit, he's walked into the training camp, and there's one thing that really stood in my mind. So he's talking to the coaches. He knew the playbook better than them. He knew their playbook.
They hadn't got off the line of scrimmage.
He knew their playbook inside and out. That guy had spent however long it was memorising those plays. He had worked them all out.
It's almost a change of the guard between old school and the new style of thinking. Yeah.
If anybody, and this could lead on to an intro. Can I bring in a little stat of my own, if I may? Here, I just want to bring something up.
I'm not sure about that.
But we've got to bring this little stat into it because we're talking about changing the guard. And I want to bring this guy in. It's going to take a minute, so just bring his numbers up. And I've written it down, and it's here. I mentioned in one of my podcasts about Tavin Austin being a poor man's Tyreek Hill, and I just want to bring that in here because I think if anybody could get an immediate boom from an exciting coach change, it's a gadget player. And I think if you look at Tavin Austin last year he had 58 catches, 509 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had 28 rushes for 159 yards and 1 touchdown. So overall he had 4 touchdowns. So if you compare that to Tyreek Hill had 61 catches, so 3 more, and 593 yards. So in essence about 90 yards more. But he scored double the touchdowns. He had 6. So quite close numbers. Running wise, he ran away with it literally. He had less carries, 24 for 267 and 3 touchdowns, and his speed was very noticeable why he got those touchdowns.
They're both really quick.
But the year before, Tavin Austin also scored 9 touchdowns. People forget this. And he had 52 rushes and 52 receptions and scored 9 times between the two categories. So if anybody could get a bit of an uplift instantly, I think it's a man like this who can come in and maybe give this guy more opportunity on the edge. And
They've just got to design plays that'll get Austin the ball in space.
He's got to get,
and that's where he could be devastating.
Tyreek Hill is a much more. You were absolutely correct in what you identified off camera for me. Much more polished a runner, much more polished a route tree receiver. Dynamic when he gets the ball in his hands in any position, whether it's punt returns or kickoff.
Like you say, a lot of it's coaching because they get him the ball in those.
Where he's
got blockers in front of him and he can make plays.
So I think Tavin Austin, for once, as much as because his ADP is so low now, that ain't bad. I mean, let's be honest. There is something there where you could actually make an argument for there is a bit of higher ceiling than what we saw last year. Just to be honest.
Yeah, and he's going to get opportunities.
So I'm finally supporting a Rams player. There you go.
Okay, Finley,
but he's still not that bad. It may be worth a little punt, but maybe not. We'll see.
Okay, well, let's talk about Isaiah Crowell. We talked about him a bit, off mic. Yeah. And Crowell, 165 fantasy points.
Yeah, it's a pretty good showing. Standardly, pretty good showing.
Big step up. He had a good yards per carry.
Yeah. You've highlighted the main issues with the stats.
My issue with Crowell is. He's a talented guy, but 7 of the 16 weeks he scores single-digit fantasy points. Yeah. So that's 7 weeks he's hurting your team. He's not consistent.
And that's the byword of what no fantasy enthusiast wants to hear. Now,
he's because he gets 2 when you drop him, and then he scores 20. I mean, it's nothing more infuriating.
The worst thing is about all of this is his ADP is so high. At one point, it was round 3 in a large league. I mean, now his ADP is so high, nearly every league you're going to have to pay round 2 price.
And he does have, he has big upside this year as well.
He does, but I'm kind of like you. I looked at that, and that was the metrics that made me go, oh no, I don't want that.
This is
because that's the thing I don't want.
They get the points when you don't play them.
I'd rather have solid numbers across the board and the odd dip here and there, rather than this week he got very few points. The next week he gets very few, and then the week you're thinking about, oh God, should I bench him? You do bench him, and then he puts up 36 or something. You think, well, how do you cope with that? You can't. It never helps you fantasy wise. No, it's a big problem. That I mean, yes, he did it. He didn't do too bad, but you've got to be a bit concerned putting him in your lineup. I mean, he may well be the difference factor of losing and winning the game.
Well, if you compare him to Frank Gore, nobody likes him. He's very boring.
Well, we do.
But he's steady. Yeah. We do like him.
He was consistent.
Because he had 12 top 25 weeks. He was an RB1 last year.
Yeah.
He's slower than me. Well, that might be pushing it a bit far.
I'd like to see that race. I really would.
But the reason he'll stay in is because he blocks so well. He's the best blocker in the O-line.
If Andrew
Luck would be dead right now.
Well, I said that, didn't we? Remember in the last podcast we mentioned this. I mean, Andrew Luck and Russell Wilson, I think it was Russell Wilson, but Andrew Luck got sacked 41 times. If it wasn't for Frank Gore, what would it have been?
Yeah, there's so many times he saved him.
And he had just under 1,000 yards rushing and a few hundred yards, 300 odd yards receiving. It ain't bad. His ADP. I've heard people actually saying, "Why would you bother picking him?" Because he's a seasoned pro. He's going late enough in every league format to make it a.
He's
viable
one of these
option.
people that you look at the top, the top 12 running backs of the year, and you think, Frank Gore, how's he got in there again? It's like Blake Bortles. How has he got in the top 10?
If you've got a certain format in your team, right? So the middle rounds are the rounds where I talked about the percentages dropping away of getting a locked player in and success. Do you remember we talked about this where we said first round you got about an 80% chance to get a round one worthy player, round two it's about 75, and it drops away. And the bigger the league, the more the drop off in percentages. But the round that Frank Gore's going this year in ADP. You know what? It is not but there's no risk. Do you think Frank Gore's 50-50 to actually return any value? I don't. I think I'd put him at 65-70% to return similar value again this year.
Yeah,
that's
obviously
as good.
A chance.
There's every chance. Yeah, maybe he goes. Well, the one thing he's never going to get criticised for, and if it happened this year, it'd be a free. I don't see an injury with Frank Gore. I'm ruling that out.
No.
The only thing I see is wear down in age, but. He proved last year that weren't going to happen. So I'm not doubting him until he hangs up the cleats.
And you don't have to pick him high.
He's no risk. What's the problem with him?
Yeah, I've got no problem with picking someone with a higher ceiling, but sometimes slow and steady.
Look, you can take your Christian
wins
McCaffreys.
a very average race.
You can take your Christian McCaffreys all you want, but maybe it ends up that Frank Gore, Mr. Steady Eddie, by the end of the year, the tortoise and the hare, wins the race because he's been so consistent. You're absolutely right to raise him. And I look forward to seeing him do it again this year.
He had 12 top 25 weeks, but only one top 5. That shows you how steady he is.
He's in the middle numbers, which is what you expect. He's not going to. You don't want him as your RB 1 or 2 in fantasy.
No, he's a flex.
A flex player, he's perfect for.
He's going to get you 8 to 10 points a week.
Happy days, that is for me. That's what you want. If you could lock that in all week long, you'd take it. You'd be delighted.
Yeah, instead of having someone like Tavon Austin or
exactly.
Or maybe Crowell's a bit harsh, but that's what he did last year.
That's what he did. Yeah.
He gets you 2 points, you lose by 4 points, you drop him next week, he scores 20, you lose again because
he didn't play him, yeah.
And you end up tearing your hair
He can hurt you bad every week, yeah. Very good point, right. Good stat.
Let's talk about Hyde now from San Francisco.
Okay.
He scored 165 fantasy points. We think of him as glass, really. He missed 3 games again.
Yeah. That is the average, actually. 3 games missed by top running backs a year is the average. 3.
If he stays there, though, Shanahan, obviously, who's responsible for the Freeman-Coleman thing, and they turned into like a great 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
Also, when he was at Washington, he actually had Alfred Morris as a rookie.
Yeah.
And he had a great season, didn't he? That year he came in, over 1,000 yards, multiple touchdowns. So, he's a very RB-friendly coach. Offensive coordinator.
If anybody can bring the best out in Hyde, it has to be this situation. He did prove last year one thing to me. As much as I've kind of dismissed him in recent years in fantasy, I can no longer overlook him. His ADP is high, but there aren't many running backs in the second round that you could actually take and go, I think he can give me good numbers and relatively consistently.
It also might be worth drafting someone really late, especially in a larger league like Joe Williams, is it? And Matt Breida.
Matt Breida is a good
option.
And
then even Tim Hightower.
It's always worth... Look, sometimes if you can't get them, you target the backups because in those leagues the ceiling is huge, isn't it? If the backup comes in, the ceiling is humongous.
He can make a two running back situation work and pay off big time, and look how good...
Well, I think what it's proved is if you've got...
And if Hyde does go down...
I kind of think they
You're
have...
looking at
See, I think they have...
You're looking at money, aren't you? Really?
Yeah, I do. But I think they kind of have it. I think they have a very similar situation because I think Hyde can be... I think he can be that number one. And I think, like Devontae Freeman does for Atlanta, I think he can do that. And I actually think that Joe Williams can come in and do the Talvin role. I think he can come in and do that because...
The Tevin Coleman role.
Kevin Coleman, I do apologise. Tevin, yeah, not Kevin.
That's making players up.
I'm just making names up. That's it. But no, I think he could come in to do that role because he's an exciting player which doesn't need a lot of touches to actually be relevant in a game, and he can take games over. I think that's the kind of player they're looking for there. So I could see that working and being relevant. And what's wrong with that?
Look how Shanahan turned Matt Ryan into like a superstar.
Gold
last year.
Yeah.
With that great offense, they created.
That was out of left field. Matt Ryan's production last year was really out of left field.
Can he do the same with Brian Hoyer?
One would think not, but if any, but you do raise some good points because Hoyer did have some 300-yard games. Hoyer has proved. I mean, we had a bit of a discussion about.
Do you know he had more QB1 weeks than Eli Manning? Brian Hoyer.
It doesn't surprise me because he had some good yards when he came in,
and he only played about a month.
Can he do it with a journeyman quarterback? I suppose the answer is I can't say no because he's a coach that proved he could do it. So. Hoyer may have more relevance than we think, and maybe Hoyer's a great late round pick off in, not saying first quarterback, but second quarterback in a league and take a punt on somebody. It's not a bad one in San Francisco's offense.
I mean, look at the step up from Chip Kelly to Shanahan.
Massive, yeah. Chalk and cheese. Yeah,
that could give you fantasy value.
Yeah, it could. There is some relevance there. That's a good stat.
I'm just putting it out there.
It's a good stat.
Do you know which running back led the league in yards per carry last year?
Ezekiel Elliott, probably.
It isn't. He was fourth.
Okay.
I think it's actually Mike Gillisley.
Oh, okay. 5 is that 5.4 or
5.7.
5.7, right.
So you got a little bit of stick for Mike Gillisley because we both hired him. We both really like him.
I got a lot of stick on this. Yeah,
which is good. I like you getting stick.
Thanks. Yeah.
I didn't get any, but I like him just as much.
Well, people are not big sellers. They're not big buyers, I should say, because what they're saying is, and I understand this criticism.
It's a good point. Yeah.
Look, they're saying to me, look, he's in New England. How can you put him on your? This is a player I'm kind of targeting at number 3. Well, the reason is twofold, really. First of all, New England under Bill Belichick. 5-time Super Bowl winners. Let's just put that in straight away.
Not bad.
They've got the arguably the GOAT of all time at quarterback. Arguably, you can talk about whichever other quarterback you like, but he has won 5 of them. He has brought them from 25 points back in a Super Bowl. I mean, and he was animated on the sideline, and he believed he could win it still. He has me convinced he's one of the greats of all time. I mean, we could argue he was before, but where I'm going with this is very simple. When they've been undecided at running back, sure, you know what? They'll use whoever they need on any given day and anyone can be relevant. Last year, for the first time in a few years, they actually found somebody who they could trust.
Yeah.
And he went on and done 18 touchdowns. And I called him a plodder at the beginning of the year.
He's a plodder.
And that is exactly what he is. He's not going to
light
the league up.
Touchdowns.
But he had 18 attempts inside the 5 with New England and converted 11. I suspect that Mike will do. I'm not saying he gets 18. I never said that in my video. What I'm saying is,
you said 10.
I think he can get 10 double digits, and I think he can go over 1,000 yards running. And I don't even know what to put a figure on really at receiving. But I know one thing about Mike: he can catch. So the reality here is, this is a guy who can do first, second, and third down work if required. If that's what they want to use him for, he might only be used on first and second down, maybe in certain situations. I think he can still deliver those results. So going ADP, 5th round in a large league, I don't mind if he falls there.
I mean, he got 8 touchdowns last year.
I'll have a piece of it, please.
He got 116 points as a backup.
Yep.
8 touchdowns. He led the league in yards per carry with people over 100 carries.
I will give everybody the full details. We'll do special videos at some point on each of the players that are on my targetable list.
Their ADP.
I'll go into their current ADPs. We'll do a list of those. And I'll explain why he's number 3 on my list. At the moment, he's going 5th round in a large league. So in smaller leagues, that could be round 7, round 8, maybe round 6.
It's not a lot.
Do you know
not a big price to pay.
When you're in those middle rounds, you're already looking for lock players. None of them are guaranteed. None of them. You look at all the numbers every year. It's not that simple. So wouldn't you rather take a shot at a player who has a huge upside and a massive ceiling and a high octane offense that's likely to get the work straight away? Who, let's be honest, has he got a checkered record? No. Can he be coached? Absolutely. The guy eats up coaching. He'll do whatever the coach asks him to do. Well, that sounds like he'll get on quite well in the Belichick offence for me. Is he loyal? Yes, he's been as loyal as you can come, and now he's been given a keys to the Ferrari here.
He's going to RB29.
He's going to take this opportunity, and I suspect let me put it this way: if he doesn't deliver RB29 numbers, then I absolutely should retire from podcasting.
And you can get the backup
unless he gets injured.
You can get the backup.
You could get the backup as well, very cheap. I think he does a great job, Mike Gillisley, but I'll explain in detail how high I think he is when I go into the individuals on him. But let's put it this way: RB29, you might be pleasantly surprised at how high I place him up that list.
Yeah. He's got to return better numbers than that.
He's got to return better numbers, unless injured, and then nobody can.
And if they don't give Sean loads of stick, I never said anything.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. But we like to put it out there, so I do believe in him. So
yeah,
people can doubt all they want, but please play in my leagues when you doubt him and leave him on the ball, please.
Yeah, we'll take him.
I'll happily take him in round 5. Please, guys, in the large league, just leave him there, thanks.
Let's just briefly probably finish with talking about Atlanta's 2 RBs, because they could be very interesting this year. But they've lost Shanahan.
Yeah.
Possible, Super Bowl hangover as well. When they're walking around saying there's no Super Bowl hangover. What are you saying about it?
There is always a hangover, yeah.
Well,
there's a cure for it, and they've been lucky.
We saw it from Carolina last year, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, they
never recovered.
Well, they've been lucky. I mean, if you've got a moment, bring up their schedule, if you wouldn't mind, Al. Can you bring up Atlanta's schedule? I'll just quickly talk about this, about the running backs first, while you're doing that. So I think both running backs, Devontae Freeman has won me over. He has done the last few years. You know how I was on him last year. I mean, he's consistent. We talk about consistency in fantasy. He's a round 1 worthy talent for a reason. The guy has proved that he is in the upper echelon of the running backs. Sure, he's not in the top, 5, 6, but he's certainly in the next 5. He's one of those guys who will deliver top 10 numbers, no doubt about that. And Tevin Coleman will do what he does, which is he will break off exciting long plays and he will return around about 140 fantasy points worth of return value. Devontae Freeman will give you about 200 there or thereabouts. He's not going to massively explode past it, and he's not going to massively under-deliver.
Well, Tevin Coleman's numbers, he got 247 in 2015, 230 last year. He had 30 carries inside the 10-yard line and 19 inside the 5.
Yeah.
So the opportunity is there, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
They definitely favoured him over Tevin Coleman in the red zone.
Yeah, I mean, he's proved he's got shake and bait, he's got elusiveness, and the other thing as well is that desire to drive in. When he put the ball in his hands, he sees it as a red rag to a ball, and he just has to get over the line. And I like that about running backs. I want them to believe that they've got to score, because that's what you want from them. You want them to have that desire, and he's got it. And he can break plays, and he's an exciting kid to watch. So very, very much like their opportunity. Yeah, the coaching change does make a difference, but I think...
Would it worry you about him returning value?
No.
Devontae Freeman?
No, not at all. No, he's round
What
1.
about Tevin Coleman?
No, I think you still have to use the 2 of them. There's been a blueprint put down. Any coach coming in will want to take over that blueprint and probably continue on as it was. That's a main staple of what will build the team going forward. Now, if you've got their schedule, you'll see why there's not really going to be much of a Super Bowl hangover. So if we look at their first sort of 3-4 games... So the one thing that will always be a nightmare for a hangover is if you start badly.
Tricky game.
So if you have 2 or 3 or 4 games where you're thinking, blimey, maybe we could go 1-3 or 2-2, that could be a big hangover problem, because once you start losing, the whole thing can fall apart.
Right, they start at Chicago Bears.
Should be a win.
What, with Matt Glennon at quarterback?
Yeah, should be an easy win for them. I suspect they'll roll them over. A nice big score they can pump up on there.
Bit trickier, Green Bay.
Yeah, that'll be a much more tricky game. Yeah.
Detroit away.
I think they can win that game. Yep.
Buffalo Bills
and
at home.
They can win that game.
Win that
so you're looking at 3-1. Maybe
but then they got the Dolphins and Patriots. That's not easy.
Dolphins will be a tough proposition, but again, I think they can win there. Patriots are always tough. You know how good they are. But what you're looking at is in those first 6 games, it's very likely they could win 4. Yeah, 3-3 worst case scenario.
And 2 of the last 4 games are the Saints.
Yeah, and that should be exciting for them.
That's always exciting for any offense.
Any offense should be exciting. So what you're saying is really here, what we're looking at is that they're not facing the kind of issues that you would really take the wheels off. Is, you lost the Super Bowl, then you lose 2 or 3 quick games on the bounce.
If they were to lose to Chicago.
If they were to lose to Chicago and then lose the next game, then the wheels have truly come off, and then we will see a disintegration of the team. Massive falling out. But
I think Coleman missed 3 games last year, but he still put up good points.
Do you remember my little stat a little while ago? It's very normal for running back ones to miss 3 games a season.
He's running back 2.
Yeah, I know, but it generally happens for those top tier guys. And I count him in the top tier because in any other
team, he finished well up, didn't he?
In any other team, he'd be getting a lot of carries, but they genuinely do miss about 3 games. Is normally the metric.
He's got 160 fantasy points, 11 touchdowns. Tevin Coleman,
and
I've missed 3 games.
And I'm only penning him in for 140, and I think he returns that. So
you've got 8 games where he's double digits.
Nothing wrong with that.
No,
nothing wrong with that. Good.
But do you think it's sustainable, though? That's the thing.
Well, it very much... I think they've got the benefit of a reasonably good schedule the first 6 games, so I think there is a very good chance that there's no hangover and they can come bouncing back. And actually, they've got a point to prove. I mean, they've still got a good team. There's a good nucleus of players there. You won't... The only way you can put your doubters wrong is to go back and do it. That's all you can do. And they'll have to come out and just do the best they can. Now, hopefully... I suspect the schedule has been kind. I've seen other years where people have come out of the Super Bowl hangover, have a nightmare of schedule, and the whole thing's fallen apart really quickly.
Yeah.
And you think, well,
but it's not so bad.
This isn't too bad. I think that they can do all right, and I won't be surprised if in the 6 games they're 4-2, or maybe even better. And then actually people will be going, oh, they look like they could go back and deep into the playoffs again.
And they can kick on then.
Yeah,
but if they start badly, they could.
And they've got a chip on the shoulder. I mean, let's be honest. They've got a point to prove because you've lost arguably probably the best position in any Super Bowl in history, and you should have won. And the reason you didn't win is a number of reasons: coaching issues, didn't run the ball enough in the second half, a lot of problems that the team actually had. And I suspect, looking back at it, everybody's got their part to play in the loss, as well as getting 25 points out.
Mainly not running enough, though.
Mainly not running enough. It's little things, though.
3 rushes.
Even the quarterback, this is where I've got to be honest and put Matt Ryan under the spotlight. It's never been mentioned, but you're the quarterback. You're seeing a change in the way the flow of the game's going when you want to run it more. I mean, I would.
You'd be calling audibles.
I would make sure the ball goes to the running back. So seriously, I would, because I can see that once you start throwing, it's not working. You better change your dynamic. You've got to. I mean, that's just my opinion on it, but I think you should. I mean, the quarterback is the general on the field. You've got to start making your voice heard. Even if the coach shouts you down, at least the team will know that you were trying to make the right changes. I've not heard any of this, so I don't know. It'll be interesting. See what happens.
Okay, well, we're coming to the end of the podcast. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe. We really appreciate it.
Let's get that out there one last time. Please, please, please. Thumbs up. Comment as often as you dare. Please do comment, though. And 2, share the videos, because we have kicked on. We've put up 15 subscribers in the last week, give or take 1. That's phenomenal. We are trying to go over 100 subscribers. We're still short of that. We're about 35 short of that. We want to go over 100 because then I've got to buy a little prize, and we're going to talk all about that. It'll be a serious prize.
Everyone wants to see Sean spend money. Surely that's enough to subscribe.
And I can tell you now that it will be worth over £100 what I'm about to do for the podcast. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is. Yeah, you can put your name in it. We'll see what happens. If you win it, there'll be a big hoo-ha about, that was lucky, wasn't it? A Dak Prescott shirt. How lucky was that? Yeah. No, this will go only to all of those listening in. We'll talk all about that when we get to that point. We go over the 100.
Okay, and please leave a thumbs up on the video, and thanks again for watching or listening, whichever one you're doing. Thank you.